This is indeed Elvin Israel, one of your favorite biblical instructors from RPK, Resurrection, Prophecy, and Kingdom, where we concentrate on those three tenets. I have two cameras working right now, so that's why I'm going to be looking back and forth, just in case you guys wanted to know. But hope you all are enjoying your holidays. As y'all know, I really don't celebrate. I don't dive really into those holidays like that. So hopefully this right here will be good enough, great enough in order to lead you along the way of having a fantastic day, year coming up, and etc. So while we are sitting back relaxing, why not just in dwell or be involved in some of the biblical truths? I want to talk about quote unquote Lucifer today. We're going to talk about Lucifer and how tradition has caused such name to be more powerful than it is, and how tradition then caused something that wasn't even a functioning entity to become a functioning entity and back a following. So we're going to talk about the truth behind Lucifer and what the Israelites of the ancient world, how they dealt with this Lucifer character and what it was actually supposed to mean. Give me 1 second. Okay, let's get ready to get started. You're going to find out the truth about Lucifer today and how it's supposed to be understood, and then you'll be able to see how mankind has a knack of creating traditions that's not really what the Father had in mind. So let's get ready to rock and roll. I'm going to be reading out of my Orthodox Study Bible today. So everything is going to be coming from it because I'm out of town and I don't have access to the ones that people are more familiar with. So I'm going to be doing the Orthodox Study Bible today. Let's get ready to rock and roll. So this whole conundrum, it started off in Genesis. Yes, let's say this again. The whole thing dealing with Lucifer and how Lucifer is supposed to be recognized, it actually started off in Genesis. And by the time we get to the Greeks and the Romans, it got blew out of proportion on how this Lucifer character came to be. So we're going to talk about the true meaning behind it and how tradition, it's time for us to stop with the ridiculousness and the traditions and actually say what the Bible meant for it to say. So Genesis 3, this is going to start off this whole Lucifer dynamic. Genesis 3, verse number 5, and it states this. For God knows, in the day you eat from it, your eyes will be open, and you will be like gods, knowing good and evil. So most people would like to start this Lucifer conversation with the snake, with the serpent, right? That's not where we're going to start it at, because the serpent itself was just a metaphor. Yeah, we're going to learn a whole lot of information today on how the Bible actually works compared to how mankind has used characters that were supposed to be personified and actually made them real characters. And that's why the biblical understanding is off today, because we took a lot of things that were supposed to be personified and we made it actual entities, because for some reason we act like we don't know how personification works. So let's get ready to keep starting, okay? So this is Genesis 3. So we see the temptation is this. What is the temptation? God knows in the day that you eat from it, your eyes will be open and you will be like gods. So that's the temptation right there. You will be like gods, knowing good and evil. So this is dealing with wisdom, right? So that's Genesis 3. Let's read Genesis 3:22 now. Then the Lord God said, behold, the man has become like one of us to know good and evil. Now lest he put out his hand and take also of the tree of life and eat and live forever. Okay, so the first thing that people really fail to understand is what the whole Genesis Garden of Eden narrative was supposed to be about. If you read carefully and closely, Genesis 3, verse number 5 tells you all you need to know. It says this. Now listen. For God knows in the day you eat from it, your eyes will be open. Okay. So now, is he talking about these eyes right here in your eye socket? Is he explaining that their eye socket eyes will be open as if they was walking around with their eyes closed? They're walking around with their eyes closed. What tree? Figuring things out. No, he's not talking about the eyes in your sockets. So the first thing to understand is this is talking about something inwardly. See, that's the first thing that people they kind of miss the point of the story because they don't actually read and ingest the words. So this is something inwardly. Their eyes will be open. This is something inwardly. And when their eyes is open, they will be like God, knowing good and evil. So this is something inwardly. This is an inward wisdom. And when they partook of the tree, right? Partook of the fruit of the tree, their inward knowledge became greater than it was supposed to be. All right. So when their inward knowledge became greater, they became just like God. And he tells us how. This is verse number 22, 3 and 22. Then the Lord God said, behold, the man has become like one of us to know. See, this is all about wisdom. To know good and evil. So you can see right now the way that the Bible is supposed to be understood compared to the way people teach it. It's already starting off different, right? I ain't said nothing about nobody eating no apple or none of that. That's not what the Bible said. Ain't no apple in it, or no one's talking about them eating a tangerine or none of that stuff. So this is all wisdom language, wisdom knowledge, and it's really not for everyone, right? Everyone is not going to grasp it. Everyone is not going to believe it. Everyone is not going to need it. But this is just what the Bible is teaching. All right. So they had the knowledge like God to recognize good and evil. All right. And that opened up a whole handful of things, because now if you have knowledge of good and evil and you choose evil, knowing you have knowledge of good and evil, now if you choose evil, now the Lord cannot deal with you or show you the grace that he would have regularly showed you, because now you are choosing evil. You're choosing evil. And that choice, that understanding That's what separates you from God. When you choose to be corruptible, when you choose to be evil instead of making a mistake. So that's how it rolls. That's how I roll. So now let's continue on. So that's the whole thing in the beginning, dealing with Adam and Eve, dealing with this whole understanding on what the story represents. We realize that there is a choice of being good, a choice of being evil. So now let's get to the Lucifer aspect, because now we understand how it started. It started off with a choice, mankind choosing to partake of this lifestyle to have a relationship with God. So now we're going to go to Isaiah, and we're going to bring up this Lucifer character, because we got to remember the whole thing was trying to be like God. That was the whole thing. That was the temptation. God knows when you eat of the fruit, you will be like God. So that's the whole temptation aspect of it all. Mankind wanting to be or wanting to operate like God. Okay, so there's a reason why the story starts off with such words, such temptation. Now we can actually get into the Lucifer aspect now. So this is Isaiah 13, starting at verse number 1. It says, "The vision against Babylon seen by Isaiah the son of Amos." So, right here, right now, we're not talking about anything besides the country or city Babylon. We're not talking about anything outside of Babylon. Now, tradition will try to tell you that this is talking about our future, or it's going to be talking about some type of Satan deity character that's in heaven. That's what tradition is going to try to explain to you what's happening in this scenario. Meanwhile, the Bible itself explains to us, reading it thousands of years in the future, as well as them, the original recipients of the prophecy, what's going on. So, the vision against Babylon. So we're at Babylon here, okay, people? We're at Babylon, not the spiritual anything. We're at Babylon. So here, the vision against Babylon seen by Isaiah, the son of Amos. So this is verse number, that was verse number 1. Let's read verse 17. It says this: "Behold, I will stir up the Medes against you, who will not regard silver, neither do they have need of gold." So, in fact, I can read the next verse. "They will break in pieces the bows of the young, and show your children no mercy, nor will their eyes spare your children." I can read the next one. "It shall be that Babylon, called glorious by the king of the Chaldeans, will be as when God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah." So you see, in context, we have not left Babylon. Okay, we have not left Babylon. This is a lamentation. This is the vision that was seen, that was supposed to occur to Babylon in the future days of Isaiah. So Isaiah prophesied it, but we're going to find out when this prophecy actually was fulfilled. But the point is, this is about a city. This is about Babylon. We haven't heard anything about no spirit, devil, demon thing. We haven't heard that. So That's chapter 13. Now, everyone, you should understand, in the old ancient days, they had scrolls. They didn't do the paper like we got, the chapter breaks, the chapter division, the verses. They didn't have none of that. It was all just one long narrative. The chapter breaks and the verses came later to help people navigate through the scrolls. But this is before all of that happened. So this is just one long narrative. So, chapter 13 and chapter 14 is one narrative. It doesn't go from speaking about a person, then all of a sudden we jump to a demon. That's not what's going to happen. So let's continue reading what happened. So now this is a vision against Babylon. Let's read what happened in Isaiah 14. So this is Isaiah 14, verse number 5. It says, well, I'm going to start at 4 and then go to 5. Ye shall take up this lamentation against the king of Babylon, and will say in that day, how the exactor has ceased and the compeller ceased. God broke the yoke of sinners in pieces, the yoke of the rulers, and in his anger he struck a nation with an incurable wound, and striking a nation with the plague of anger, which did not spare them. So you clearly see, once again, this is going against the king of Babylon. Shalom to your brother Daniel, RPK, doing this thing. You know how we do it. But shout out to my brother. So we clearly see this is talking about the king of Babylon getting ready to be destroyed by God's judgment on him. So let's go to verse number 9 now. It says this: Hades from below was embittered to meet you. All the mighty who ruled over the earth rose up to meet you. Those who raised from their thrones all the kings of the nations. All shall answer and say to you, you also were conquered, even as we, and are numbered among us. So he's numbered amongst the ones that got conquered. Okay. So they're saying that you have been conquered just like we have. Your glory and great gladness has come down to Hades. They will spread decay under you, and the worm will be your covering. In other words, he has been cast down. He has been destroyed. Okay? His memory cast down, destroyed, destruction, almost like being put to death. That's the death imagery, the death language. You was great. Now worms are on top of you, and etc. That's it. He lost his kingdom. He's dead now. He don't have the same glory he had. But let's keep reading. It says this: how you are fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, who rose up in the morning. He who sins for all the nations is crushed to the earth. Now, what people will then do, they will come and suddenly make this be about a demon. Make this be about the devil, or however you want to look at it. The devil, a demon, a strong entity that who knows what people do with this. Satan, would they make this Lucifer character be something that rivals God, the opposite of God, just everywhere, but he's evil. All right. So before we go on talking about this Lucifer, I'm going to read from this book, The Works of Philo. Y'all see it? The Works of Philo. The Works of Philo. If you don't know who Philo is, he's a first century, he lived in the BC, first century AD era. He's a Jew from Alexandria, Egypt. Once again, he's a Jew, not a convert, none of that. He's a Jew from Alexandria, Egypt. He lived at the end of the BC era all the way over into the beginning of the AD era. So he's a contemporary of Jesus and the apostles and etc. So let's look how he used this same word Lucifer. Okay, so this is going to be on the cherubim, his works on the cherubim, part 1. We're going to read chapter 7. It's going to be line 21. So listen to what he says. But that outmost circle of what is called the fixed stars is one spirit, which also proceed in a fixed let me see, what's this word? Oh, okay. I think it's periodical. I'm sorry. That's just me. Periodical revolution from east to west. But the interior circle of the 7 planets, whose course is the same time, compulsory and voluntary. Okay, that ain't nothing. Voluntary has 2 motions, which are at a certain degree contrary to one another. And one of these motions is involuntary, like that of the planets. So now he's still talking about planets. For they appear every day proceeding onwards from the east to the west. But their peculiar and voluntary motions is from west to east, according to which last motions we find that the periods of the 7 planets have received their exact measure of time, moving on in an equal course. So that don't mean nothing. Let's read this next one. As the sun and Lucifer and what is called Stillborn, for these 3 planets are of equal speed, but some of the others are unequal in the point of time, but preserve a certain sort of relative proportion to one another and to the other 3 which have been mentioned. So in other words, he stated that Lucifer was a planet. In today's world, it would be planet Venus. Stillborn would be Mercury. But planet Venus in today's world, in that world, they just called it Lucifer. So Lucifer was a planet in the sky. Let's say this again. Lucifer was considered a planet in the sky. So we have a Jew. That's why I like these old books. They explain how they use words. So when the church fathers came hundreds of years later, if they didn't have this information, they would make it up the best way they knew how. But we have it straight from a Jew what Lucifer was. It was a planet in the sky, and it moved at the same pace as the sun. So it was equivalent to being producing what the sun produces. Because if you ever seen a planet in the sky at nighttime, it looks like a star. Y'all all know that. If you go outside and you look for planets and you see them with your naked eye, they look like stars. Some of them just be shining a little bit brighter. Some be closer in proximity, but they look like stars. So anyway, so now we understand Lucifer was a star, aka a planet in the sky. So if we know this, it has nothing to do with a demon, has nothing to do supernatural world, it has nothing to do with none of that. So now we know this. We can go right back now and look at the poetic language, look at the imagery that Isaiah was using to explain the the aspect of how high this king was being exalted. He was being exalted so much he was compared to Lucifer, aka Venus. So now let's read it again, knowing now we know this, right? We know this. I don't got to make it up. I don't know if you guys can see it. Can y'all see this right there? I don't know if y'all can see this. I don't know if y'all can see it. The word Lucifer is well, y'all ain't gonna be able to see it. Anyway, I tell you exactly where it's at. If you got this book, it's on page 82. So let's go back, since we got proper understanding on how Lucifer is being used in Isaiah 14. So now, how you are fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, who rose up in the morning. So Lucifer has the same track as the sun, according to Philo. So when the sun rises in Lucifer, Venus has the same track, is doing the same thing that the sun is doing. So now, as the sun rises up in brightness, Lucifer, aka Venus, is rising up in brightness with it. So now he's saying this: how you are fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, who rose up in the morning. He who sins for all nations is crushed to the earth. So just like Lucifer was in the sky, exalted, this king was being compared to Lucifer. He was being compared to the planet that rose up in exaltation, the one who brought light, the one who bore the light just like the sun. So he's being given this name because he's being compared to it. Just like this found out throughout the Bible, how Jerusalem was called Mystery Babylon, how they was called Sodom and Gomorrah, and your mother was a Amorite, your father a Hittite or whatever, how they use certain comparisons to explain that you guys have the characteristics of what I'm saying. That's happening here. So this king has the characteristics, the exaltation of being high, just like the planet Venus, aka Lucifer. So he has the name Lucifer as in exaltation, as in a metaphor, as in comparison, not as in a evil entity that's a spirit. That's not what's going on here. That's why nobody in the Bible ever spoke about the Lucifer ever again. It's only here in Isaiah. Jesus didn't call nobody no Lucifer. The disciples, any prophets after this, notice nobody's kept talking about a Lucifer who was this Satan character that was coming down and doing all this stuff. So the people who have this Luciferian thought, or the people who say they follow Lucifer and they follow this, that whole thing is wrong, because the tradition that came from the Greeks and Romans got it wrong. They started making this Lucifer being a being out of heaven that fell down to earth because of their misunderstanding of how the Hebrews use these terms. So they messed it up, and now people hundreds and thousands of years later come right behind them with the same messed up explanation, and they create things out of misunderstanding, and people follow it because nobody corrects it. So now you got a whole bunch of people thinking that this Lucifer guy is some type of Satan creature, and you got people following it, calling themselves Luciferian, and they have the Luciferian doctrine, and they're going to sacrifice to Lucifer, and Lucifer talks to them. All of this is based off of human ignorance, because we don't understand how the people who originally wrote it, what they were saying and what they meant. So what do? We winged it. We came with the misunderstanding, and people came behind them with the misunderstanding. Now they created a whole bunch of dumb things. And God, he has no reason to step in and correct them because we have the words, and all we have to do is read them and believe them. But let's keep reading. Let's keep going on. Let's keep going on. Shalom to you, my brother. Shalom, shalom to you. So this is it. It says this right here. How have you fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, who rose up in the morning? He who sins for all nations is crushed to the earth. Now listen to what it says right here. For you said in your mind. Remember, this is something mental. This is something mental. What did Adam and Eve want? Something mental. Because you remember, the Lord judges the inward man. He judges the inside, not the outside. So when he's doing his judgment, when he's talking, he's understanding what's on the inside of a man. So he's speaking from the inside and not the outside. So the Lord is explaining what's going on in the mentality of the king of Babylon. So this is what the king of Babylon has going on inside of his heart, inside of his mind. It says it right here. For you said in your mind, I will ascend into heaven. Now, how, if this is about an evil creature, a spiritual creature that came from heaven, why would he say in his mind that he will ascend to heaven if he's already in heaven falling down? You see right here how you are fallen from heaven, O Lucifer. You have said in your mind, I will ascend to heaven. So how is he falling down from the place that he's saying he's going to ascend to? He didn't already ascend to it. That's how he's going to fall down from it, because you see, this is a whole bunch of poetic language that people are abusing in order to teach new doctrine. There was no doctrine of Lucifer in the days of the disciples. That came after that. After they left and went on, then the church fathers took over. Then the doctrine of Lucifer being the Satan and all this stuff, then that took over. So this is something that happened after the disciples. But let's keep reading on. For you, now listen to all of the things that's being said. For you said in your mind, I will ascend into heaven. I will place my throne above the stars of heaven. That's where the planets are. I will place my thrones above the stars in heaven. I will sit on a lofty mountain, something high, on the lofty mountains toward the north. I will ascend above the clouds. I will be like the Most High. So you see all of these I's will do this. I will do that. This is self-exaltation. Get what the Bible was actually teaching. This is self-exaltation. The Bible is teaching that the king of Babylon started exalting himself, and the Lord responded to that self-exaltation with judgment. Same thing Adam and Eve went through. Self-exaltation. You will be like gods, knowing good and evil. Oh, that sounds cool, being like God, knowing good and evil. Ate it, got cast out. Self-exaltation. Here, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this. He's saying this in his mind. I'm going to do that. And then what happens next? Destruction after self-exaltation. First come pride, then destruction. This is a biblical narrative that the Lord is trying to teach, and people have turned this talking point into a demon thing that walks around and get inside other people and make them demon things. That's not what the Bible is talking about with this. This is a Adam complex. What is the Adam complex? Wanting to be more than what the Lord needs you to be. Self-exaltation. That's an Adam complex. That's what happened with the children of Israel. Self-exaltation, self-righteousness. This is what the Bible is trying to teach us. Understand the principles and quit being so supernaturally given over to folklore. You got too much folklore in the Bible, and you're missing the elements, the eloquent ways that the Lord wants to teach you how to function. You're missing it, and you are exchanging it for folklores and other supernatural ideologies. That's the it's too much fables. Too many fables have entered into your doctrine. Paul explained it in one of his letters. I forgot the word that he used, but he was telling them that in other words, that they had too many fables to understand really what the Bible is trying to teach, or what the scriptures trying to teach. They had blocked themselves in using all of this supernatural ideology. Okay. All right, but let's keep reading. Let's keep going on. So that explains the Lucifer actually being a king who exalted himself, and the Lord had to punish. So now, if we go to Isaiah 14, okay, I done read 13 and 14. We're going to go to the fulfillment of this prophecy, because people have disconnected when this prophecy was actually fulfilled to understand once again what the Lord was explaining. So once you go to Daniel chapter 4, everyone, Daniel chapter 4, we're going to read verses 28 through 32 first. It says this, Daniel 4:28. All these things came upon Nebuchadnezzar the king. After a period of 12 months, he was walking about the royal palace in Babylon. So everyone, we are in Babylon. Isaiah was talking about what was going to happen to the king of Babylon, how he was going to be up high and then get destroyed, get brought down low because of his pride and self-exaltation. Let's read what happened to the kings of Babylon. We're going to read about this first king first, Nebuchadnezzar. Then we're going to read about his son. All these things came upon Nebuchadnezzar the king. After a period of 12 months, he was walking about the royal palace in Babylon. The king spoke. Now listen what the king said, saying, is not this the great Babylon, which I built as a home for my kingdom, but by my mighty power, for the honor of my glory. So let's read that again. Let's read what Nebuchadnezzar said again while he was walking through the palace of Babylon. Is not this the great Babylon, which I built as a home for my kingdom, by my mighty power, for the honor of my glory? While the word was still in the king's mouth, a voice came from heaven saying, King Nebuchadnezzar, your kingdom has passed from you, and they shall drive you from men. Your dwelling shall be with the wild animals, and they shall make you eat grass like an ox. 7 years shall bring this change upon you, until you know that the Most High rules over the kingdom of men, and will give it to whomever he will. So you see right there, King Nebuchadnezzar was self-exalting himself. Self-exaltation. I have did this for my glory. I have built this. I, self-exaltation. I. And what was the response from the Lord? I'm going to punish you until you realize it isn't you who did it. It was me who bestowed these things upon you. Once again, what is the Bible teaching? It's not mankind that has control of anything. It's the Father that's giving it to man. No self-exaltation, because the Father is the one that's doing it all. Okay? So, that's what King Nebuchadnezzar went through because of the self-exaltation. Now, let's find out as the story concludes, because Isaiah explained the king of Babylon would eventually be thrown down and he would lose everything. So, this is Daniel chapter 5 now. Daniel 5, we're going to read 1 through 4. Belshazzar, the king, made a great banquet for 1,000 of his nobles and drank wine in the presence of the 1,000. While he tasted the wine, Belshazzar commanded to bring in the gold and silver vessels which Nebuchadnezzar his father had brought from the temple in Jerusalem. So the king, his nobles, his concubines, and his wives might drink from them. Thus the gold and silver vessels which he had brought from the temple of God in Jerusalem was brought in, and the king, his nobles, his concubines, and his wives drank from them. They drank wine and praised the gods made of gold, silver, copper, iron, wood, and stones. So King Nebuchadnezzar went in the temple, brought all of these things, brought these things out of the temple, brought them to Nebuchadnezzar's Babylon's kingdom. And now his son is taking those same holy vessels and drinking from them. And not only is he doing that, he's praising his gods instead of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So this is how the Lord responded. This is verse 17 through 23 now. It states, then Daniel answered, because this is when he saw the writing on the wall. He wanted to know what it means. Then Daniel answered and said before the king, let your gifts be before yourself, and give the privilege of your house to another. But I will read the writing for the king and make known its interpretation to you. O king, the Most High God gave Nebuchadnezzar, your father, a kingdom, majesty, honor, and glory. Y'all remember when Nebuchadnezzar said he done this for himself? Now Daniel was saying, no, my God did that for you. So because of the majesty, he gave him all peoples, tribes, and languages trembled and feared before him. Whomever he wished, he put to death. Whomever he wished, he afflicted. Whomever he wished, he exalted. And whomever he wished, he humbled. But when his heart was lifted up and his spirit was hardened with arrogance, he was disposed from his kingly throne and his honor was taken from him. So what was the problem? His heart was lifted up, self-exaltation, and his spirit was hardened with arrogance. He was arrogant. He had self-exaltation. So the Lord took his kingdom. Then he was driven from men. His heart was made like that of a wild animals. So that of wild animals, and his dwelling was with the wild donkeys. They fed him grass like an ox, and his body was covered with the dew of heaven, until he came to know that the Most High God rules over the kingdom of men and will give it to whomever he will. But you, his son, Belshazzar, have not humbled your heart, although you knew all of this. Nevertheless, you lifted yourself up against the Lord God of heaven and brought the vessels of his house before you. You, your nobles, your concubines, and your wives drank wine from them and praised the gods of gold, silver, copper, iron, wood, and stones, which do not see or hear or know. But you have not glorified the God who holds your breath in his hand and knows all your ways. Verse 30. That very night, Belshazzar, king of the Chaldeans, was put to death. So what was the point of it? The arrogance, the insolence, the pride from the people in power caused their destruction. That Lucifer, that's what we're seeing right there. That Lucifer being thrown down because of the pride of man. That's what that's talking about. It's not talking about no demon thing. That's talking about the pride of man, especially men in power. That pride brings forth their destruction at the end. Now, I'm going to go over a few more and then we'll be done. So that's the whole Lucifer understanding. Let's talk about how then they make Lucifer be in the king of Tyre. Now the king of Tyre is Lucifer too, right? So now people want Lucifer to be the king of Tyre. So this is Ezekiel, who's a contemporary of Daniel, using similar language as Daniel. What was Daniel about? The self-exaltation of King Nebuchadnezzar. So let's find out more dealing with the theme of pride and exaltation, because this is what all of this is about. It's not about demons. I hate to bust your bubbles. It's not about demons. It's not about Satan. That's not what it's about right here. This is about the pride of man. Let's go to Ezekiel 28:1. Again, the word of the Lord came to me, saying, as for you, son of man, say to the ruler of Tyre. So just like Isaiah said to the rulers of Babylon, using all of that using the exaltation language, calling them Lucifer, saying that they're exalted like the planet Venus, the light bringer. Now we have a similar message for the king of Tyre. Let's read the message for the king of Tyre that's similar to the king of Babylon. It says this. Again, the word of the Lord came to me, saying, as for you, son of man, say to the ruler of Tyre, thus says the Lord, because your heart is lifted up, and you say, I am God, and I live in the dwelling of God, in the heart of the sea. Yet you are a man and not God, though you set your heart as the heart of God. So now, what did this king of Tyre do? Let's read it again. He lifted up his heart, and when he exalted himself, this is what he said. I am God. So you see this self-exaltation from man that was in power. So he's in power. He's a king, right? He has a kingdom. He's in power. And this is the arrogance of the king. He is saying, I am God. and I live in the dwelling of God, because since he's God, wherever he lives, that's where God has to dwell. So I live in the dwelling of God in the heart of the sea. So we're going to find out why in the heart of the sea. Why would this be the dwelling of God in the heart of the sea? Why is Ezekiel using this language? Yet you are a man and not God. He thought he was God, but he's just a man. That arrogance, that pride, because he has power, he has riches, he has authority, he has a kingdom. So he has that pride, right? So it says this: you are a man and not God, though you set your heart as the heart of God. Are you wiser than Daniel? Or have not your wise men instructed you with their understanding? Have you gained wisdom by your own understanding? Have you gained power for yourself by your own knowledge or discernment, and obtained gold and silver by yourself for your treasuries? So he's saying, hey, did you do all this by yourself? Is this your doing? You think you have all of this stuff because something you did? You think that you control what's going on in your destiny? You think that the reason why you're rich is because of something you did. You think you have all of this wisdom because of something you did. You think you're the cause of this. So you think you're a God. You think you're the reason why this is going good for you. You control the outcome. Oh, you believe you God, huh? That's what's going on here. Okay? We ain't talking about no demons. No, this ain't about no demons or nothing. This is what's going on with man. So let's keep reading. He says this. This is verse 5. By your abundant understanding and trade, you increased your power, and your heart was lifted up in your power. So you start making money from out of the trading in the sea. You opened up the ports, and you was letting people bring merchandise in, and through that operation you was becoming more and more richer until you got arrogant. You became prideful because of the amount of money you was making. Let's keep reading. Therefore, thus said the Lord, since you set your heart as the heart of God, instead of this, behold, I shall bring foreigners against you, the plague of the nations. They will unsheath their swords against the beauty of your knowledge and bring down your beauty in destruction. They will bring you down, and you will die the death of the slain in the heart of the sea. Will you still say, I am God, before those who slay you? But you are a man and not God. You shall perish by the hands of foreigners among the multitude of the uncircumcised, for I have spoken, says the Lord. So you see how the Lord humbled all of that pride. He said, you're being prideful because of the amount of money you're making from trade. You didn't let that money go to your head. You didn't start telling yourself that you are God because of the resources you have. You're thinking that you did this on your own, by yourself, that there was no part of me that made sure you had all of these things. Oh, you think that you're running this show alone. So, explaining that his will is in fact being done. All right, I should be okay now. Let's see here. I think I messed up something. Well, we're going to keep rocking and rolling. Sorry about that, y'all. I don't know what I did, but I shouldn't have did it. Okay, there we go. I think my green screen gonna be behind me the rest of the time. Okay, well, we still gonna keep rocking and rolling. The green screen is gonna be like that. All right, so the Lord is saying, hey, you guys think that you did all of this, but this was my doing. But since you're so prideful, I'm gonna bring you down using the same resources that brought you up. So you see that? Let's read now verses 11 through 19 of Ezekiel 28. Again, the word of the Lord came to me, saying, Son of man, take up my lamentation for the ruler of Tyre, and say to him, Thus said the Lord, and Master, you are a seal of resemblance, the crown of beauty. You were the luxury of the paradise of God, adorned with every good stone, sardius, topaz, emerald, and diamond, sapphire, jasper, silver, and gold, stone of ligurate, agate, amethyst, chrysolite, beryl, and onyx. You filled your treasures in your storehouse with gold from the very day you were created. I appointed you to be with the cherub. I set you on the holy mountain of God. You were in the midst of the stones of fire. And people read that and they'll be like, that's talking about Satan right there. They're saying that Satan was up there with God, or that's Lucifer. He was up there with God, and God gave him all these things. And when he disobeyed God, God threw him down. Utterly nonsense. That's the tradition that has been handed down by started with the Greeks and then the Romans, because these guys did not understand Hebraic idioms and none of this stuff. They did not look at the culture that the language originated in. They started making it be about their culture, but the language did not originate in the Greek culture or the Roman culture. I got to say that again. The Lord did not choose the Greek culture or the Roman culture or the Catholics or the Americans. He didn't choose none of that to start or to explain his will or his story. He used the Jews. Okay? He used the Jews. Even when the 12 tribes split, the northern kingdom went their way. The southern kingdom, Benjamin, Levites, Judah, that's who he used to continue on the story of redemption. So, if you want to know what the Bible is talking about, you cannot take it from the culture of the Greeks. You cannot take it from the culture of the Romans. You cannot take it from the culture of the Catholics. You cannot take it from the culture of the Americans. You got to take it from the culture of the Jews. I didn't notice. I didn't say Jewish people. I'm not talking about the converts who say they are Jews. I'm talking about the real Jews of the Bible. And they left some writings in the Dead Sea Scroll, the first century, just in case you want to know how they operated and how they viewed their scriptures. We have plenty of documentation, but you got to take it from their cultural understanding. And in their cultural understanding, they're not explaining a demon. They're explaining this king of Tyre who had boasted himself so much because he was rich. He was considered as being one of God's special ones. In fact, they explain him more like Adam. As Adam was in the paradise, Adam was the apple of God's eyes. Adam was meant to have a possession, meant to have dominion, and etc. While being in paradise, the king of Tyre, being a man just like Adam, was said to have the same characteristics. When the Lord created him, aka created his kingdom, he did it with a mindset of being helpful. Helping people. Trade is supposed to help people. Not only is he helping his own community, he's helping the community of the people that's doing the trading. So he's doing this to help the societies, help the environment. But the king of Tyre took it around and made it more of selfishness. So now we have a selfish act occurring so much that this guy is no longer thankful for what he got. He's walking around boasting and actually trying to act like he's more than he is, aka he's acting like he's God. All right, let's keep going on. So it says this. It says, verse number 15. You were blameless in your days from the day that you was created until wrongs were found in you. So it's finna say the wrong that was found in the king of Tyre. By the abundance of your trade, you filled your secret rooms with lawlessness. Thus you sinned. You were cast wounded from the mountain of God, and the cherub brought you out from the midst of the stones of fire. Your heart was lifted up because of your beauty. Your knowledge was corrupted with your beauty. Because of the multitude of your sins, I cast you to the ground. You hear that same language that was used against the king of Babylon, aka Lucifer? Because of the multitude of your sins and the wrongdoings of your trades, you desecrated your sanctuaries. Therefore, I will bring fire from your midst, which will devour you, to turn you into ashes upon your land in the sight of all who you see. And you will know, all who know you among the nations shall groan over you. You destroyed yourself, and you shall be present no more forever. So in other words, the Lord is saying, hey, when you started off, when you start growing, when you start expanding, I had your back. It was like you was in the garden with me. It was like you was being protected by the cherubs. It was like you was an apple in my eye. I had your back. I allowed you to get all these riches. You got the riches from all these nations coming in. People are flourishing. You're flourishing. You're helping people. People are helping you. But then, as you got more and more rich, you start doing more and more evils. And those evils caught up with you. And because of those evils, you are no longer in my presence. I told the cherubs to take you out of my presence. So you are no longer in my presence. Therefore, destruction will be upon you. So that's what you have in Ezekiel. It's not about no Satan creature. It's not about no evil demon things. It's not about this old evil man that's sitting on this chair and he's commanding evil spirits to go out, because at first he was partying with Jesus and God in heaven, but then he got prideful and he was the leader of the choir in heaven, and God threw him down and he took a lot of the angels with him. That understanding came later. That has nothing to do with the biblical original understanding. That has nothing to do with Christ was talking about. It has nothing to do with the disciples was talking about. All of that understanding came later. That's later stuff, right? That's not the original understanding. This is what the tradition of men do. They create more narratives, and now the Bible, which had a clear message, now it's more like Marvel Comics, because people put their own spin on what the Bible is meaning. Meanwhile, that's not even what the Bible's talking about. It's talking about these people in the higher authority being too prideful. And the Lord is telling the people in the Bible, y'all notice the Lord went and talked to the poor, the people that was broken in heart, the poor, they was homeless and etc. They didn't have a lot, but he told them, hey, in my kingdom, the people who don't have a lot, they're going to be okay, because the people who do have a lot is going to actually give to them. So nobody's going to be lacking. Everybody's going to have what they need. But he told for those rich people, The kingdom is going to be taken from you guys because you guys have everything that you want and need, and you're misusing it. You're abusing it. Therefore, I'm going to take it from you, and I'm going to give it to people who actually need it. So, in other words, it's just teaching a lesson for the higher class. It's telling the higher class, you guys need to not be so prideful and not think that you guys are controlling this. The Lord is giving this stuff to you. Therefore, if the Lord is giving it to you, you need to act like the Lord gave it to you and help other people out. That's why he put you in that position to get it in the first place. He didn't put you in that position in order for you to get it and you to set on it and you to be rich and you to go spend it and you to ball out and you to go do this and you to go do that. And now you won't talk about it. That's not why the Lord gave it to you, and he will take it away from you. That's what the Bible's trying to teach us. It's not talking about demon things. That's not what it's talking about. It's not talking about demon spirits that was in heaven and it fell to earth, and then it went from earth and it started remixing, and it went back up into heaven, and then God got mad at him. Then God threw him back down to earth, and he took a whole lot of angels with him. And that's not what the Bible's talking about. That's not it. That's not it. That's religion. That has nothing to do with the Bible's talking about. But anyway, I appreciate that. Thank you. All right, and let's get rolled. We're almost done because we're going to talk about this man of sin that Paul is talking about. Then we're going to end it. So let's get the setup for the man of sin. We're going to go to Daniel now. So in Daniel, it starts off in Daniel 7. So this is Daniel 7:25. It says this. Now notice, listen to the words that Daniel said, because this is what the people think the Antichrist is about, right? So now we have this Antichrist person, and for some reason, people want the Antichrist to be something way more than what the Bible is talking about. So this is that whole Antichrist spirit. This is how it's being brought up, right? So this is Daniel 7, and notice the wording. Daniel 7:25. It says this: he will speak extremely arrogant words and wear down the saints of the Most High. He will devise a way to change times and law, and he shall be given authority for a time, times and a half a time. Remember, Daniel is a contemporary to Ezekiel. So they have a knack to be talking about people who exalt themselves way more than what the Most High planned. So this individual right here that he's talking about, right? This individual, he was going to speak arrogant words. Okay, so now he's bringing forth arrogancy. He's a very arrogant person, and he's going to wear down the saints. So this is a person that's warring against the followers, and he's being arrogant while he's doing it. So now this is how Daniel phrased it to let you know that this is dealing more with the people who's following, I'm just going to say it, the law of Moses. So this is what he says right here. He says, he will devise a way to change times and law. The only people that cared about times and law in the time that Daniel is writing this, or Daniel was speaking this, is only Israel. Israel was the only one that's dealing with times, which is their festival calendar, when they're supposed to do the calendar, when they're supposed to do the feast days and etc. They're the only people that's dealing with times. So he's going to think to change times and law. Israel was the only one that had the law of God. So this person that's coming in, he's going to be very arrogant, and he's going to try to change what Moses has put forth. The institution under Moses. He's going to try to think to change times and law, but he's a very arrogant person. So this is how Daniel 11 speaks on this same individual, right? Daniel 11:36-39. It says this: then the king shall do according to his will. He will be exalted and magnified above every god. So you see that exaltation right there. And speak arrogant words. Why is he speaking arrogant words? Because he has been exalted. Now that he's in a higher position, he's speaking as such, as now he's the authority. He's God. He can determine what's going on. He's very prideful. He's arrogant. Let's keep reading. He will be exalted and magnified above every god and speak arrogant words. He shall prosper till the wrath has been accomplished, for it is to be ended. He shall not regard any gods of his fathers, nor the desire of women, nor shall he regard any god, for he shall exalt himself above them all. So how do we skip that right there? It literally says he's going to exalt himself above them all. This is self-exaltation. Okay? This is pride. The Bible, it's not as hard as people want it to be. People have got obsessed with making it be about any and everything than what it's actually trying to teach. So once again, look what it says, verse 36. Then the king. So we're talking about a person that has authority, a person that has power, a person that has more than other people. So once this whole narrative, we didn't heard about Adam, we didn't heard about who they call Lucifer, we didn't heard about the king of Tyre. Now we're talking about this individual. What did they all have in common? They all had power. They all had people under them. They all had authority. They was in a place to have people subjected to them. And while they was in the place to have people subjected to them, they abused their power. They abused their authority. They started looking like, I am the one that's doing this. I accomplished this all on my own. I did not have any help. I am God. I move the way I want to move. The reason why I have this is because I made it happen. So this is them putting their self in the mind, in the action, in the thought of self-exaltation, trying to be or trying to act like they had no heavenly assistance. Everything came from them. This is what the Bible is teaching us. Once again, about how the high class, the people in power, if they don't understand how they got their power, they are doomed to fail. Here's an example real fast and I continue on. If you remember the conversation with Pilate and Jesus, and Pilate said, hey, don't you know that I have the power to say yay or nay? I have the power to execute you or to set you free. I have that power. And Jesus corrected him. He said, no, sir. The only power that you have is because my Father gave it to you. So you see how Jesus corrected that whole, I got this, I got that, I can do this. And he's like, no, my Father controls all of this. This whole narrative is running throughout the Bible. It's running throughout the Bible. And people miss the narrative because they want it to be about something it's not. They want it to be about some guy in history that did this or that guy did that. That's not what's going on. That's not how the Lord is using his Bible to, or his words to explain to people how his kingdom is supposed to operate. People that got lost into their own traditions and what they believe is going on. But anyway, in the book of Enoch talk about it as well, as in the final judgment, the Son of Man is going to come. He's going to uproot all of the kings because they never acknowledged where they got their power from. So that's a thing that the Jews believed in. But anyway, so we got this guy. He's self-exalting, right? For he shall exalt himself above them all. But in his locality, he shall honor the God of fortresses. And a God his father did not know, he shall honor with gold and silver and with precious stones and desirable things. Thus he shall do in the strong fortresses of refuge with a foreign God, and he shall increase his glory. He shall subject many to them and distribute gifts in the land. And people really don't have no idea what's going on right there. But if you read it carefully, he's making himself be that God. I mean, let me just show you how he's making himself be that God. Verse 37, he shall not regard any gods. So he's not regarding any God of his fathers, nor the desire of women, nor shall he regard any God. So he's not going to regard any God, for he shall exalt himself above them all. So now, he's not regarding any God. He's exalted himself above every God. Now listen to the next sentence. But in his locality, he shall honor a God of fortresses. Hold on. I thought he's not exalting or honoring any gods. So who is this God of fortresses? And a God his father did not know, he shall honor with gold and silver and with precious stones and desirable things. Hold on. He's giving this God the silver, the gold, the precious stones, the desirable things. But I thought he wasn't going to honor any God. Well, once you put it all together, he has made himself a God, and he's honoring himself, the God of fortresses. This is dealing more with warlike language and etc. So he's good with war. He's good with warlike tactics. And let's see here. What else does it say? A God of fortresses, a God his father did not know. He's going to get what gold, silver, precious stone, and desirable things, all things that he desires, he's going to give to the God, aka to himself. This is all about self-exaltation. This is just poetic language about self-exaltation. That's all it is. So once we got Daniel explaining about this quote unquote Antichrist character, right? That people go into history trying to find out who it is. Ridiculous. But once you go to 2 Thessalonians, Paul speaks about this same character. Well, listen how Paul explains this character. In 2 Thessalonians, let me find it real fast. So this is Paul when he comes back talking about this character. 2 Thessalonians 2, 3 and 4. Let no one deceive you by any means, for that day will not come unless the falling away comes first, and the man of sin is revealed, the son of perdition. Now listen to what the son of perdition, the man of sin, listen to what he does. Who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God or that is worshiped, so that he sits as God in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. Now, we have heard this language before. We didn't heard this language throughout all of the Old Testament. So when we get to the New Testament, let's don't forget everything we heard in the Old Testament. First thing first, this individual has power, okay? Because all of them had power. This individual is considered a king. And you can go throughout, Luke, to find out who the kings of the earth was when they came against God. Came against the Messiah. But anyway, so that's something you can look up later on. I think it's in Acts as well. But let's keep going on. So what does this person in power do? He exalts himself. He's saying the things that he has accomplished, what he is doing, the outcome of his work. all of the things that he's boasting is in self. So he is the one that's saying, I have done all of these things. Look at my work. Remember, he's going to think to change times and laws. He has a lot of pride and arrogance. So it says this right here. He sits in the temple of God. So we know this is something dealing with pretty much the Christians and their Mosaic system, because the Mosaic system was over the Christians in the first century. But anyway, so this is dealing more with the Christian perspective and the Mosaic system. So he's sitting in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. How is he showing himself that he is God? Because of the way that he boasts and through his actions. The way that he boasts and through his action. And it says this, the Lord is going to destroy him with the brightness of his coming. The problem we have this, then I will get ready to end it. And I'm going to actually prove what I say. The problem is this poetic language gets lost in tradition. It gets lost in tradition. And what I mean by that is people will come and listen to the singular language and make it be about one person. And they said, see, look, it's about one person because it says the man of sin, one man. It didn't say men, it said man of sin. And it said that he exalts himself, which is one. So it can't be many people, it's just one because it's using singular language. Now, these same people that tell you this is what they leave out. First of all, this is a Hebrew writing people who understand the Old Testament. Now, did y'all not know that it was a majority view that the suffering servant, singular, one, suffering servant. Did y'all not know that it was a majority view that the suffering servant represented the nation of Israel? It was a majority view. In fact, Paul said the Holy Spirit taught him it was actually about Christ. So using logic, if the Holy Spirit taught him that was about Christ, that means that he had the old understanding before the Holy Spirit taught him. So the suffering servant, one person, was thought to be the entire nation of Israel. So you see how one can represent many. They call that plurality. We got that in the Hebrew word echad as well. Echad means one. It says in Genesis that the two shall become echad. Now I might have paraphrased that a little bit, but the two shall be echad, which is the two shall be one. Even though there's two people, they represent one. Same things with the body of Christ. There's many members, one body. Just like in the book of Daniel, there's many members, one beast. So they use the corporate body language throughout all of scriptures. But for some reason, when it gets here in Thessalonians, they quit doing it. Now it can't be the corporate body language. It can only be one person. But Jesus never taught one person was going to come and do anything. I'm saying it again. Jesus never taught that one person was going to come and do anything. He said it's going to be antichrists and false prophets. One body, many people. Antichrist, false prophets. So what this represents, it represents the people. I'm not even going to go into that. Just know it represents people and not just one person. So let's get ready to wrap this up. This is all about arrogant people falling. Lucifer, arrogant person that had power, falling. The king of Tyre, arrogant person, had power, falling. They're using imagery language that they're lifted up, aka they're like the morning star. You was in the garden in the paradise. They're using all of this high exaltation imagery to explain how exalted this person's going to be. But when you don't get explained that, you start thinking the Bible is talking about demons, a demon person that the Lord created and lets roam free and destroy and do wicked stuff to people. Like the Lord, he will destroy the nation of Israel for violating his covenant, but he won't destroy Lucifer, who's the real main antagonist. He's really the worst enemy in causing people to do this. See, people know this. People think this way. It is logical to think this way. So you mean to tell me that God would kill his son instead of killing Satan? God will kill the wicked people, but not kill the demon that's making everybody wicked. So people think this way because of their misunderstanding of the scriptures. They think that Lucifer is some type of demon thing that's going amongst people, creating all of this chaos, because tradition has taught them Lucifer was this demon thing that's going around. That's not what Lucifer represents. That's not what Lucifer meant. They didn't think Lucifer was this spiritual thing. That understanding came later. See, the Bible has been flipped and flopped to people who did not understand the original understanding. And that information got passed down from person to person. See, the church fathers' information got passed down from person to person to person to person. And I don't got no beef with the church fathers. I just don't really adhere to them after the 3rd, 4th century. They start tripping. But the point is, what the Bible was explaining, that really don't get taught anymore. What get taught is the commentary that happened after the Bible was fulfilled. That's why people is still talking about Jesus is going to return today, based off of tradition, based off of how people traditionally break down the scriptures. And through the tradition of the church fathers and the tradition of the Catholics and the tradition of the American religious people, through that tradition, it has been taught that Jesus is going to come back any day now through tradition. There's nowhere in the Bible that can state what they're trying to bring out. So they give the commentary left on or left by the Greek people who are not Israelites, and they listen to their breakdown. Therefore, you're going to always be waiting on Jesus to come back because tradition told you that. And then you're going to wait so long and go through so much misery. You 9 times out of 10, you're going to walk away from the Bible because you're going to say, God don't make sense. He hasn't sent Jesus back. He just letting the world get wickeder and wickeder and worse. And I don't need that. I need to be spiritual. And I'm going to go back to worship what my ancestors was worshiping, because who gave us the Bible? And before the Bible came, what were we doing? What are we doing wasn't working. But anyway, so the point is, this is where we are at because of tradition. So 2026, I'm going to break down that wall of tradition and start teaching what the Bible is actually saying. So these are the last verses. If you go to Isaiah 2, verse 12, it says this: "For the day of the Lord of hosts shall come upon all who are insolent, arrogant, high, and lifted up, and they shall be humbled. Listen who? Because this is supposed to be the last day of the Lord that the Bible is talking about right here. Isaiah 2 speaks on the last day of the Lord that the Bible is talking about. This is the last prophecy of judgment. And this is what the Bible, these are the people that the Bible said is going to be judged. Notice he didn't say nothing about no singular antichrist. He didn't say nothing about no singular demon. He didn't say nothing about no Lucifer or Satan. That's not what he's talking about here. Okay? And my next lesson, I'm probably going to do another video on exactly what Satan is, because people have messed that up and think that Satan is a demon running amok, doing crazy stuff. Now, Satan being an adversary, a devil being an adversary, do I believe that there are evil spirits? Of course I believe. If they're good spirits, I believe there's going to be evil spirits. Do I believe that there's one main evil spirit that's sitting around with a pitchfork that got things coming out of his head, and he's red, and he's sitting around and he's sending demons out to do? No, I don't believe that. That's ridiculous. But I'm going to talk about what Satan actually was in the Bible some more. Y'all listen to this word, because I'm going to use it a lot next year. Personification. Look it up. We have it throughout all our literature. Personification. Guess what? The Israelites use personification as well. We wasn't the first person, no, we weren't the first group of people that created personification. It's throughout all of the Bible itself. The spirit walked, you know what I'm saying? The trees sang. It's throughout the Bible. Satan came down and spoke. It's that personification is throughout all the Bible. But now, here's Isaiah 2 once again, verse number 12. This is the last judgment. It's coming up on, let me say it again. Isaiah 2 verse 12. For the day of the Lord of hosts shall come upon all who are insolent, arrogant, high, and lifted up, they shall be humbled. So what is the Lord trying to teach people? What is he trying to teach people? Is he trying to teach people that airplanes are going to be flying, and then somebody's going to disappear, and then their airplane is going to crash into a car or a neighborhood or a mountain, or people are going to be driving and then they're going to disappear, and there's going to be no more driving, and the car is going to crash into a building or into another car or into anything else, or your dog is going to be barking and the dog is going to disappear, and it's going to be chaos for 7 years, and then the Lord is going to come back at the end of that 7 years and take all the righteous people, and he's gonna set them in the sky and lead all the wicked people on the earth. Is that what it sounds like it's talking about? That's tradition. Once again, that's tradition that came later. That's tradition that came later. Or is it saying that people, you ain't gonna be able to eat because you're gonna put a chip in your finger and you're gonna wave the chip, and if you don't got the chip, you're not gonna be able to eat, and the Lord is gonna cut your head off, or the people gonna cut your head off if you don't listen to the Lord? Or what's another thing? Or he's gonna take the Euphrates River and he's gonna dry it up, and he's gonna let the kings walk through it, even though we live in a time period where they can actually use an airplane and fly over it, and they don't use horses anymore for battle or swords because we got guns and tanks and nukes. But then people will say, well, that's the language that John was using. When he said sword, he actually meant missile. He made it up, because that's how your doctrine gonna stick. You got to make stuff up in order for it to stick. And this is what you guys got to understand. You make a lot of things up in order for the Bible to make sense to you, and that's not what the God told us to do. His words is embedded in Israelite culture. It's not about what you want it to be to make sense to you. The Lord ain't doing none of that. The Lord said the day of the Lord, which is his judgment, is going to be against the arrogant, the insolent, those people who was high and lifted up. They're going to be made humble. This is the characteristics of people. The Lord is saying that his judgment was because people were wicked. People were arrogant. People were prideful, and he doesn't like this inside of his kingdom. You can't work with a prideful person. Something always is going to happen to take away that high frequency, the natural ability to love and to enjoy. That's going to be taken away. You can't deal with prideful people. You can't deal with arrogant people. You can't deal with selfish people, and etc. That's anti-Lord. So he's explaining that these are the people that he's looking to judge. When he did do that judgment, those were the people he was looking to judge. He wasn't looking to a person, oh, they said a cuss word, he's going to kill them and send them to hell forever. That's not what's going on with the Bible. That's tradition. That's religion that came later. That came after the Bible was finished. Then people came and put their spin on it. The Lord tells you exactly the type of people he loves. He loves people that's going to follow his natural order, the people who's going to be helpers and lovers of one another, not of self, but of one another, people who's going to go above and beyond to make sure the community, everyone is okay and safe. That's what the Lord is here and what the Lord was promoting in the Bible. Christ is going around healing people, and the highly religious people are the people that have a problem with him. It was the highly religious people that had a problem with Jesus. It wasn't the sinner. He said he came to help the sinner. He didn't tell the sinner, hey, guys, keep sinning. Keep tearing the club up. It's okay. No, he was like, hey, we got a better way to do this. I see what you got going on over there. But how does that help your brother? Is your actions going to help you? Is it going to help your brother? Is it going to help your kids? Is it going to help your community? Well, if it's not, then I need you to change the way that you're doing things, change the way that you're thinking, quit making it be about you personally, and start thinking about the community. That's what Christ was coming with. Christ wasn't coming with, oh man, they cussing. Yeah, we're going to kill him. Oh, what did he do? Oh yeah, we're gonna cut his neck off. Oh, what did he do? Oh yeah, he gonna bleed out. Yeah. I'm gonna destroy all this. I'm killing all these people. That's not what Christ came to do. That's religion. Religion is throwing people into hell. That's what religion is doing. They throwing people into hell. They telling people, hey, if you don't do it like I'm doing, you're going to hell. Truth be told, the whole hell thing was a play off of the ideology that the Greeks had forming in the first century. And since in the BC, in our late BC era, the first AD era, it was the thought of this eternal punishment. So going with the ideal of the time, the Lord used that type of language to explain himself. But if you know the Bible like you should, I'm pretty sure he was thinking, but they would catch on what hell actually means. But the religion came around and tradition came around and told you that hell is people burning. It's just ridiculousness. So let's this is the last one, and then I'll be done. We're gonna go to Proverbs, I swear, and I'll be done. This is Proverbs 16, 1 and 2. All the works of the humble are evident before the Lord. So the Lord is looking at your works, and if they're humble, he's acknowledging it. But the ungodly will be destroyed in the evil day. We just read who the ungodly were. This is verse 5. All the works of the Lord are the righteousness, but the ungodly man is kept for an evil day, aka a day of judgment. So what the Bible is doing with this Lucifer and this language is just talking about people who have been exalted, and it's using a metaphor of how high they have been exalted and how through their exaltation they get the big head. Therefore, he has to bring them back down to reality through judgment. That's all it's talking about. The things that people want to, I mean, like I'm saying, 2026. I'm coming through with the real truth that the Bible. I see why people is walking away, because the teachers is being ridiculous on how they teach the Bible. But we're going to come through 2026, RPK all day. We're going to come through and we're going to actually explain what the Bible is trying to teach. It's a spiritual book, but it's a spiritual book based off of wisdom. Wisdom always wisdom is going to always need words, metaphors, similes, exaggeration, personification. It's always going to need those type of elements. Apocalyptic language. Wisdom literature is going to always need parabolic language. It's always going to need this. This is a scientific proof. Y'all can look it up if you don't believe me. They did a study on how people understand more, and it came to realize that people understand more through parables than they will understand through getting straight answers. For some reason, some way, you having to think about things, it opens your brain more to the information so you can obtain it. And what people have done, they have taken this parabolic book and made it hyper literal. Therefore, they don't need a much brain power to actually understand what the Bible is talking about. But we're going to come back and tell you that this is a wisdom book. Jesus used exaggeration. Jesus used metaphors. Jesus used similes. Jesus used personification. Jesus used, y'all gonna hate to hear this, Jesus used astrology, astronomy, math. Jesus used all of that in his teachings because the Father uses all of that to help mankind understand things. If you want to know how mankind is supposed, how we're supposed to be, the best example I can give you is a worm going through a metamorphosis. A worm going through metamorphosis. You start off as a caterpillar. What is a caterpillar? It's really ugly. Some of them live a secluded life, just doing what you can do to survive. Walking on the ground. It's really just a worm, scared people. Just a terrible, it's just not really a cool insect. But when that caterpillar go in that cocoon, go into that self inclusion, it changes. It metamorphosizes. The way that it was, the way that it went in, it's not going to come out that same way. It's going to come out better. It's going to be able to reach more heights. It's going to be able to explore more. It's going to be able to help more. See, a butterfly actually helps with the pollination and etc., just like bees and stuff do. But anyway, so it's going to be able to do more helping than it does harming. So it lives a different life once it leaves the cocoon compared to what it lived before it went inside of it. So the Lord uses nature a lot to explain to mankind how he wants us to be. See, they knew this information before they even start writing the literature down on the Bible. So you can see how you're supposed to be just in nature. You can look at the sun setting, the sun rising, how we go from dark to light. That's a story of mankind. That's a story how we're supposed to be. We start off dark, but we're supposed to end light. Everything is hidden, but at the end, everything is supposed to be revealed in us. We're supposed to be able to see the path after we can't see anything. All of these things are called correspondence, but it's in nature. And what the Bible did, it explained it more in allegories and stuff. But anyway, I can continue on and on. Just know 2026, that's what we're going to do. We're going to hit this right. We're going to explain it right. We're going to show what the Lord was trying to do, because a lot of people being over religious has destroyed the works of God. People being over religious have destroyed the kingdom of heaven. Here's some homework. Look at Matthew 25. Read Matthew 25, starting of when God separated the sheep and goats. Look at who the Lord allowed into heaven and who the Lord did not allow into heaven. Matthew 25, the sheep and goats. That'll tell you everything you need to know about the Bible. Once again, Matthew 25. Start around the understanding of the sheep and goats. See who he let in heaven and see who he did not let into heaven. That will explain to you the entire point of the Bible. And you take that point and you live by that point. And if your mind or your preacher's mind or your elder's mind is telling you something different than what the point of Matthew 25 is, then you got to tell them, we got some work to do, people. All right, y'all. Thank y'all all for listening in. I appreciate all of the views, all of the shares, all of the comments. I'm on 2 different platforms. Eventually, I'm going to be on 4 different platforms in 2026. But thank you all. I love y'all. Y'all have taken y'all time to set apart what you could be enjoying with your family on the 25th. I really don't celebrate Christmas, but I understand the meaning behind it. So thank you all for just taking a little part of your life and chilling with me. I'm gonna let y'all get back to y'all family now, your family and friends, and shout out to everybody. I hope you all enjoy today. In 2026, we got a lot to accomplish. All right, y'all, stay blessed. I love you all. The Most High loves you all. Let's do something that's going to benefit somebody else. That's going to be our goal before January the 1st. Let's do that. Everyone do something that benefits someone else without expecting anything in return. Without expecting anything in return, go out and help at least one person. All right, y'all. Hey, shalom. I'm out now. I'm finna end it. All right. See how to end this. I think I kind of messed this one up. So I'm sorry about that, y'all. Yeah, I mashed back too far. Oh, Lord. I had to just cut the whole phone off. I'm trying to find out how to end it. I don't have an option to end this one.